Hi, everyone. I am very excited to welcome all of you here to our webinar this afternoon and for taking some time out of your day. It looks like we have a lot of very excited people here. We are very happy to be able to host this webinar for you. My name is Marlene Guy, and I am a professional development provider here at EIE, or Engineering is Elementary, at the Museum of Science in Boston. And tonight I have Chantel, who is going to be our moderator for the evening, running some tech and helping me behind the scenes. So thanks to her for all of her help this evening. And we're really excited to offer a very fascinating topic. It's called Integration of STEM Subjects in Elementary Classrooms. So just to start off, we'd like to talk about our webinar goal for our evening, our hour together, is to investigate what it means to meaningfully integrate STEM subjects. So that's going to be our overarching goal of our hour together. But before we follow along with what we're doing, we're going to talk about a little bit of our behind the scenes stuff and help for you guys to be able to participate, a little tech help. So this is participant status, and this is the overarching the screen that you have at the top, that red line. And so one of the things I want to point out to you is at the top right there, it looks like a little person who is raising your hand, and there is a drop down arrow that goes along with that. If you hit that drop down arrow, a whole bunch of choices come up, and there's certain choices like agree, step away, speak louder, that type of thing. And so that is a really great way for us to have you guys participate and make sure that you guys aren't getting lost or stuck behind. We do know that there's some computer issues, Wi-Fi issues. There's a lot of things that's out of all of our control. But what I would like you guys to see that there's the agree button, and that would go ahead and change your status, and that little person disappears and it becomes a check mark. I would like for everybody to be able to go ahead and do that now so that we know that everybody has that ability. And then that helps us be able to figure out if there's any other extenuating tech issues. And it looks like we have the majority of people going ahead and agreeing, which looks great. So we are going to go ahead and have you guys clear that. So in the same drop down area, it says to clear agree. And I'm going to have you guys go back in and clear that so that we know that everybody is on the same page. All right, that looks fantastic. So we're going to go ahead and dive right into what we're doing. And so we're going to start thinking about and percolating a topic is how does the addition of multiple subjects add value to a lesson or unit? So on the bottom left of your screen, there's a little chat pod. And I would love for you to just take a moment and add things into the chat pod that would help us understand what you guys think the addition of multiple subjects and how that adds value to a lesson or a unit that you are teaching. So thinking about all of the lessons that you're doing currently, or maybe lessons that you have seen other educators do, these are a really great opportunity for us to be able to see where everybody's at. Great. Real world connections helps students be able to make those connections to other things, makes it more real world. Absolutely. There's a lot of people saying things like real world. It helps them to be able to understand that subjects don't live in a vacuum. Absolutely. So being able to incorporate multiple subjects is a really great way of doing it. Thinking about they're able to apply knowledge in real world problems. So it's one thing that we try and teach them multiplication, but to get them to have a real world application for it, or time, or algebra, those are really great things. They have an opportunity to use more skills, which is absolutely fantastic. Wonderful. These are really great answers, and I think that we have a great starting point for all of this. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to continue to add another part. We're going to ask what words describe a meaningfully integrated lesson. So thinking about the words that come to mind when you hear meaningfully integrated lesson, go ahead and place those in our word cloud. So we have a word cloud that we are generating. So as Chantel is adding this, in the bottom there's a little spot that has enter your message here. And so this is one that you can add as many words as you want. And if you see somebody who is entering a word in there that you want to have, the more times it's in there, the larger it gets. So if you want something to be really powerful, you can have it entered in so it doesn't matter if somebody else is saying it. We've got lots of great words that are being generated in here. I'm seeing lots of meaningful happening over and over and over again. Engaging, aha moments, those are really fantastic. So thinking about supporting students, three-dimensional, intentional, impactful, authentic. These are really, really great words. You guys are adding a lot of great things to our word cloud. And I'm going to give you guys about another 15 seconds or so. I see that several people are still typing, and they are going to add those last few words to that. And as we are doing that, I'm going to have Chantel go ahead and close our word cloud, because we're going to come back to this in just a few minutes to be able to do that. So go ahead, Chantel. It looks like everybody's had an opportunity to add the words that they were hoping for. It looks like it's slowed down. Perfect. So Chantel is going to go ahead and save that for us, and we're going to bring that back a little bit later. So we're going to keep on going and start thinking about our integration scenarios. So we have some integration scenarios that we're going to talk about today, and it's going to give you guys an opportunity to start thinking about some really great integration, and then some integration that might need some improvement, and we might need to think about some ways to support that. So as we think about these lesson plans, these are scenarios. They range in different levels of integration and subjects, and that we want to think about how to be able to make lessons more meaningful. So these are created from common themes and scenarios that we hear about here at the museum. So as you are going through our lessons, I want to keep in mind that this first lesson that we're going to talk about is about life cycles, which is a lesson sequence for grade 3. The two areas, we have science, which develops models to describe that organisms have unique and diverse life cycles, but all have in common birth, growth, reproduction, and death. And that the engineering side, we have define a simple design problem reflecting a need or a want that includes specified criteria for success and constraints on materials, time, or cost. And so I'm going to have you guys read a scenario, and as you guys are reading that scenario, does the integration of science and engineering add value to this lesson? So our lesson here is a lesson that is the students learn about the life cycles of 3 organisms, butterflies, frogs, and tomato plants, and they design and improve habitats for one of these organisms so they can observe and compare life cycles. So I'm going to have you go ahead and read through this, and when you're done reading it, if you could just click the agree button so that we know that everybody is ready to move on. Great. So it looks like a majority of people were able to read through that lesson and start thinking about our question, the how does integration of science and engineering add value to that lesson? And so I'm going to think about, have you guys say, does the integration of science and engineering add value to this lesson? So I would love for you to add in our chat pod below what your thoughts are on the integration of science and engineering and the value of it in this lesson. So I'm going to give you guys a couple of minutes to go ahead and type your answers in. I see lots of people going at it. Great. So we have people who love the comparison. So thinking about that. Connect science with engineering practices. I'm getting a lot of yeses. They're seeing some definite connections. It allows the integration of design thinking, definitely. It allows students to do research. That's always a really fun and engaging way for students to be able to access lots of different parts of things that they're excited. Absolutely. Helping students understand that things are already doing. So they're having that real world application. They're able to see it. So they have an opportunity to be able to do that. They're able to see those graphical representations. So thinking about how that's all graphed and accessible for all of them, which is a really great opportunity. Comparisons, lots of comparisons, yes. And they're having the opportunity to be able to think hands-on, which is always wonderful. And students really love that opportunity to be able to support themselves in their thinking. Perfect. We've got lots of things. Making design a habit. Absolutely. There's a lot of people that are saying stuff about integrating math. So once you start thinking about charting and graphing, absolutely. Connections to prior knowledge. That's always a really great one. So thinking about how our students think about their prior knowledge and be able to actually apply all of that. That's absolutely wonderful. All right, so we are going to go ahead and start winding down. It looks like some of our comments are finishing up, and we're going to go ahead and move on to our next scenario. So thinking about our next scenario, we have our different, I'm going to go ahead and make it so I'm visible again so you guys can see me. And so we're going to think about our second scenario here, which is water filters, and thinking about these two components, which this one has the integration of math and engineering. So this is for grade 5 and thinking about our math, which would be no relative sizes of measurement units within one system of units, including kilometers, meters, centimeters, kilograms, grams, pounds, ounces, lots of different ones. Within a single system of measurement, express measurements in a larger unit in terms of a smaller unit. So record measurement equivalents in a 2-column table. And then engineering is generate and compare multiple possible solutions to a problem based on how well each is likely to meet the criteria and constraints of the problem. So again, we're going to start thinking as you guys read through the scenario, does the integration of math and engineering add value? So thinking about this lesson particularly, we want students to learn about water filters and explore the performance of filter materials. They create, test, compare, and improve their water filter designs by observing and converting the rate at which contaminated water flows through their water filter, and observes changes in color and clarity to the water. So go ahead and read through the rest of this lesson. And when you are finished reading, if you could go ahead and hit the agree button so that we know that you have had an opportunity to be able to get through the reading portion. Just reminding everybody when they're finished reading to go ahead and click that agree button so that we know we're ready to move on. All right. Thank you for everybody going ahead and adding that agree button. It just helps us on our back end. We don't want to keep on moving on with people not having an opportunity to be able to finish the article. Thank you so very much. So as we went through this, does the integration of the math and engineering add value to this lesson? So thinking about what you saw, go ahead and place the answers into our chat pod. Nope, don't worry about the agree. It's that little person at the top that's raising their hand. If you put that drop down, you'll have a little agree button. That's okay. Perfect. Yep, using data. This is a great opportunity for them to be able to have a practical application for data collection, reflective solutions to problems. So they have an opportunity to be reflective in what they're seeing and improve what they need to make. Observing and calculating results, rates, absolutely. It shows how math is used in real world applications, definitely. Love the real world connection. So we're getting a lot of people saying that they really love that real world application, which is fantastic. Lots of converting units of measurement, observation, processing, data collection. There's a lot of data collection in this, which is a great opportunity for students to practice that skill. There's a lot of measurement. Yep, absolutely. So there is definitely critical for young students to be able to have that application of being able to collect and store and calculate that data, which is really great. And thinking about what students would think. So yeah, integrating that math lesson, absolutely. And then making measurements more meaningful. So thinking about how students have an opportunity to be able to apply it. We teach them all these different measurements. And if it's not particularly a form of measurement we use on a regular basis, they don't have as many opportunities to practice those skills or to be able to see how that is relevant to what they're doing in their lives, which is absolutely true. Some kinesthetic learning, which is always really great. Absolutely. These are some really, really great answers, and we're really excited about that. So we're going to go ahead and keep on moving on. I know a few people are starting to type some of their things in here. And I just pulled up a slide deck that is very, very challenging for everybody to be able to see. There's a lot of things in here, so I'm going to go ahead and stop for a second and let everybody know that I'm just going to orient both of you guys, all of you guys, to the both of our screens at the top. So we have our scenario one. So these are all of the answers that you guys gave back in our chat bot for scenario one. And so you have that option for scenario one, and to remind you that below it is the life cycles unit that we learned about. And then in scenario two, to the right-hand side, is all of the answers that you guys gave us for the water filters unit, which is the one that is right below it, for a summary of what both of those look like. And so what we would love for you guys to be able to do is to think about those two scenarios that you guys have read, and think about what are those common attributes and characteristics that were in both of the units. So thinking about how best that supported our learners. So go ahead and add that to our chat pod below so that we can add that and start thinking about the comparison. I do want to remind you, there's a little scroll button on here so you can go up and down to be able to see any of the comments that were made from any of your cohorts that are in here today, so that you don't have to feel like you're only stuck with that small little section. There was a lot of really great comments. So The engineering design cycle seems to be a common thing here. Real world connections. We got a lot of real world connections. Comparing and contrasting. Some more real world applications. Absolutely. These are really great things. So start thinking about engaging. So Sandra, absolutely. These opportunities are all very engaging for students. Jill is saying there's some room for creativity, which is always wonderful. So thinking about that ongoing learning, since they have to compare, so thinking about that, about how they're comparing for long periods of time, lots of problem solving, absolutely, thinking about the problems that are faced and how they're working towards those solutions. Again, more connections to the real world, which is really a great way for students to be able to solidify and have practice in those skills that they're learning. The creativity in students, thinking about prior knowledge, absolutely, that's a really great one. So thinking about that, Patricia, about how that prior knowledge really helps support their learning and how they're actually applying all of the things from other subjects or integrating it, something they might remember from something before. Absolutely. So the application of ideas is a really great one, John. So they have that idea opportunity to be able to take those ideas and put those out in the world and actually apply those, which is fantastic. Awesome. All right. So it looks like we are slowing down in our conversation about that. So I'm going to go ahead and have us have another opportunity to be able to do some comparisons. And this is, how do these common attributes, so looking at our word cloud that we generated earlier, there's lots of really great words in here: collaborate, connected, engaging, authentic. We've got lots of different words that are in here. Empowering is a nice big one, which is fantastic. How do these common attributes compare to your word cloud? So this is our word cloud on the top left here that we created. And then looking at our attributes chart that we're going through, I'm seeing lots of critical thinking, problem solving, engaging, application. And so this is that word cloud you guys created, and you guys use these words to describe a meaningfully integrated classroom. So thinking about how to compare to your word cloud about meaningful integration. So thinking about how they feel like this meaningfully integrated with what they were learning about. So you guys identified lots of different attributes that were very, very similar. So if there's anything that you feel like needs to be added, any comparisons that you would like to make between our word cloud and our attributes chart, go ahead and add that to the pod, because we'd love to be able to think about how you are viewing some of these meaningfully integrated lessons. We have a few people who are still typing. So that relevant and collaborative, that's a great word. We love to see the word collaborative as our students are working and gives them those 21st century skills. Absolutely, that's student-driven. Absolutely. So tangible, which is absolutely wonderful. Definitely. These are really fantastic. So thinking about all of these different options, perfect. Process versus product, that's a great thing. We love to be able to see that process happening. Real life, again, I knew what you were talking about, Jennifer. I knew it was tangible. So perfect. You are absolutely right. Solution diversity, that's a great section. I love that, solution diversity. So there's a lot of different solutions for that same problem. Fantastic. These are wonderful, wonderful responses. Oh, this is great. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to move on to another scenario, but this scenario we're going to do a little bit different, and we're going to have an opportunity to be able to watch a video. So we're going to start thinking about a video that we're going to have. And it's going to give us an opportunity to be able to see a lesson in process. So this is going to be a lesson. You're going to be able to watch an educator in a classroom do Long Way Down, which is designing parachutes, which is a lesson that's all on aerospace engineering. So lesson 4, there's a design challenge, which is the create step of the engineering design process. And the students use that engineering design process to design a parachute that will fall at a low rate while still being small enough to fit onto a spacecraft. In this lesson, the students will drop their designs 3 times. So they're going to have 3 trials from a height of 15 feet. In the video, participants you're going to see the students will observe those students after they have completed the create step. So they've already created it using the engineering design process. So this is some of the back knowledge. So you understand the worksheets and our engineering design process. And that in this challenge, they have recorded how long it took their parachute to fall 15 feet. And now they are calculating the average of their 3 trials. Then they are going to use this average along with the height at which the parachute was dropped to calculate the average drop speed in feet per second. The average drop speed is the criteria for this design challenge. So this is one of the criteria that they need to be able to meet. And then after this video, the students will use the average drop speed to help them improve their designs. So we're trying to give you guys a little bit of context of what happened beforehand, and then also what is expected once this starts. So as we're going to watch the video, it's going to be lesson 4. Mrs. Jean Fasciano, she's teaching a 4th grade class. And as you're watching that video, I'm going to have you guys think about which math skills are being practiced. And does the inclusion of these math skills add value to the science and engineering? So thinking about how that is closely integrated. I am also going to say that this video is just about a minute long, and so when the video is done, I'm going to ask that you guys hit that agree button so that we know that you have made it to the end of the video. We are very conscious of the fact that sometimes video buffering and Wi-Fi speeds are not the same for everyone, but we're going to go ahead and start that video, Chantal.
Now that you have your 3 pieces of data, what you want to do is add them together, divide by 3 to get the mean to the nearest tenth.
I got 17.
Each one of you calculate. Each one of you calculate under your paper. Everyone does the math.
17 divided by 3.
Okay. Did you get an average?
Yeah, that's it.
That's the mean? Okay, so now 15 divided by that.
How do you do that?
I'm going to give you a
This
calculator.
one. Yay! Divided by 5.
Yeah, then you gotta round it to the nearest 10.
Nearest tenth.
2.5862068.
You're not gonna fit that in that little box.
Oh my god.
Nearest tenth.
Okay.
Round it to the nearest tenth.
Alright. It's 2.6.
Yep.
Fabulous, darling.
sharing. I see lots of people that are already adding to our chat pod. I'm seeing lots of rounding, decimals, division, average, rounding again. Absolutely. I have people saying lots of value that was added, multiple steps in the process for calculating, requiring rounding again, mean, rounding, decimal. So thinking about having them have an opportunity to practice skills that they might not be that strong in, definitely. Finding the average, we've got lots of great ones. So thinking about they had that opportunity to round decimals to the nearest tenth as one math skills that the students developed when they were designing parachutes. Students collected 3 pieces of data, so thinking about the different trials that were there, so they had the opportunity to be able to do that testing 3 times. And then they divided the mean by 15 to get their average. So this was definitely a multi-step. I'm seeing multi-steps many times, which is fantastic. So those are some really great. You guys have identified all of the areas that here at EIE we have definitely identified as ways of being able to include this math. And so, absolutely. So this is so that you have an opportunity. I do have somebody saying that doing the math doesn't add to lesson until the data is shared and used to understand results. Absolutely. And that's a very, very poignant thing, Christine, which is why we wanted to give you guys the context of how they came with that data, and then that they're going to be sharing out that data and then using it to be able to improve their design. So it's going to be an application of it, but that's definitely something that is very important for us to start thinking about for our students. So this is really great. We've got lots and lots of different opportunities for our students to just practice math, which is really, really important. So thinking about we're going to go ahead and keep on going because I want to be conscious of time. We've got lots of great answers. Confidence is one that I do absolutely love. So we're going to start thinking about for our final scenario. So our final scenario is going to be thinking about a different option. So we're going to start thinking about our last scenario here. And so our last scenario here is thinking about our math and engineering. Whoop, we're having an issue here. There we go. So our lesson here, which is our weather lesson, which is for grade 3. I want you guys to think about the 3 areas that we have here. So we have science, and we have math, and we have engineering. So for our science, we have represent data and tables and graphical displays to describe describe typical weather conditions expected during a particular season. For math, we have generate measurement data by measuring lengths using rulers marked with halves and fourths of an inch. Show the data by making a line plot where the horizontal scale is marked off in appropriate units, whole numbers, halves, and quarters. And then the engineering part we have for define a simple design problem reflecting a need or a want that includes specified criteria for success and constraints on materials and time. This is our lesson for here. So as we're going through, I want you to start thinking about our unit, and our unit explicitly has 2 different parts here. So we want to think about our different areas. So as we go through, which subjects are being integrated, and does the inclusion of the subjects add value to our unit? So go ahead and read through our unit here, and go ahead and agree when you are done, and we're going to go ahead and have a conversation about those subjects that are being integrated. Remember to go ahead and click agree when you're done reading our scenario so that we can know you're ready to move on. Perfect. All right. So again, we've got a lot of things that are going on here. And so thinking about our different subjects. So not all of our lessons are designed to be meaningfully integrated or not meaningfully integrated. These are, some of them need to be, worked on. So looking at our poll at the top, so we're going to start thinking about which subjects are integrated meaningfully, which will be our top left poll, and which subjects are not integrated meaningfully, which will be our top right poll. So those are 2 polls, and if you go through them, you can scroll down. There's more choices. So thinking about the engineering, the math, and the science for each one of them. And I'm going to give you guys a moment. I am going to say that you're going to have 1 vote in each one of the polls. So if you change your mind, that is okay. But I want to give you guys an opportunity to know that this is not one of the ones that you have the opportunity to be able to enter as many things as you wish. So thinking about which subjects you think are meaningfully integrated and which ones are not. We're going to give it 1 more moment for them to think about. But it looks like we have most people are finished with this. And so thinking about that. Perfect. So we're going to go ahead and move on to our recommendations. So we as educators, knowing what we know now, what recommendations do you have for this teacher? So we know that some people were saying that science was more represented than others, so that was really great. But we know that we have the opportunity to be able to improve all of these lessons. So at the top, you have an area that is what are your recommendations. This is one of those things where if you add more than one thing, your first answer will disappear. So if you have more than one suggestion, you can go ahead and just put a comma in between your statements so that everybody can see your answer in its entirety. So we're starting to get some of our answers in, so the teacher could have students collect their own data on their rainfall. Absolutely. So giving them an opportunity to be able to actively collect the data, which is great. It's a great connection to science. It's a great connection for students to be able to practice those skills. So there's no solution diversity. So yep, there's one solution, and it's really challenging for students to be able to have an opportunity to be able to create something and improve it. So definitely, we're seeing lots of people saying being able to collect the water or collect the data so that they have an opportunity to be able to have that active role in collecting that data. And lots of different things like different locations in the same area. So thinking about under a tree or a wide open field or near water. And so how the placement of that water collection could have a variable to that, which would be very exciting for students. So consider the impact of weather conditions. So thinking about your prior weather, maybe weather history or predictions for what the weather should be like, and they have an opportunity to be consistent with the weather forecasts that are happening, which is absolutely part of a connection that they would find really interesting. So using the local rainfall data, so maybe not something that they've actually collected, that's definitely an opportunity to start thinking about the data that's already collected. These are really great recommendations. And that we have a lot of opportunities. So we have great recommendations to be able to support those educators. So we wanted you guys to be able to have a practical application for some of the stuff we've talked today. Not every lesson that comes across is a great application for meaningful integration. So it's a great opportunity for us to be able to talk about what that looks like. So I want to briefly talk about some resources that support integration. So there's lots of resources that are out there, and we want to make sure that you have access to them. And so before I go through, I don't want anybody panicking. These are great resources. You can Google most of them and you can get access to them. But we want to remind you that they are there. We are also going to be recording this, so you have an opportunity to be able to rewatch the video and collect any other data that you might want to see or you may have missed. But the first one that we're going to talk about is the resource that this is a Venn diagram from NSTA. So this is a really great grouping that shows how math, science, and ELA overlap with lots of different areas. I'm a very visual learner, so this is a really great way to see how NGSS practices, to have that opportunity to, cross those different lines and see those areas that not only we like to be able to see, but as NSTA starts thinking about it, and our NGSS standards and how they overlap, which is a really great tool for you to think about and to use, which is wonderful. And then next is our NGSS Appendix L. So a lot of times this is not first and foremost when you think about this, but that this is a great resource for you guys to go to. It looks like that little link in the bottom is live, but it isn't. It's just the website. But if you just Google it, it comes up, and it's a great reference for educators as we're starting to think about those connections and how to be able to best support our students, but also make those meaningfully collected lessons. So now those are some outside resources and giving you an indication of what some of the inside resources here at Engineering is Elementary. So our website features a suite of resources designed to help teachers with the integration of ELA and engineering. So I'll show you that you can access resources by visiting EIE.org and then clicking on the EIE curriculum tab right up there where the green arrow is pointing to. Once you click onto that, the page turns to this lovely yellow shade, and that's a great way for you to be able to know that you're in the curriculum area. And you would be going and clicking on this little area of the resource section. And when you click onto that submenu, you have access to our video library, content area connections, connections to standards, student assessments, and then the storybook illustrations. There's also other resources that are there. So we are going to start with the video library. And so if you go into that section there, there's a variety of video resources in our library. So that's where that video that we watched earlier today came from. And you might want to check the focus of the EIE videos and start thinking about different things that help support different areas. So where there's elementary classrooms, they're engaged in each one of the EIE units. So thinking about which unit might be the best one, and thinking about that all of our units are from different parts of the world in different countries. So if that helps to support any learning that's happening already. This would be where you would find those content area connections. So thinking about those extension lessons that might be supportive of you and your learning. And those extension lessons are really wonderful. This is an example of one. This is A Long Way Down Designing Parachutes. And so this one is the timing of a fall, and they have this set up for grades 4, 5, 6, and 7. And this gives you all of the information that you would need to be able to do that extension lesson, which would be a great opportunity. And there's a plethora of them, all for each one of the units on our website. On top of that, all of our units have literacy and science resources. So thinking about the extension activities, but then also different types of books that would be supportive, and then also different science content. So there's lots of different options for you to be able to do, and they're based in each one of our units. We also have all of our units that connect to the standards. So thinking about each individual state standards, we have everything that's aligned with all of your state standards. So if you're trying to see how all of these line back to everything that you're doing, that's a great thing to do. And it talks about how to explore all of those standards. So we have lots of different opportunities for you to be able to think about everything from Common Core to next generation science standards. So it's a great way to be able to help support our students. All right, so we are getting to the point where we are finishing up our time together. So we're going to go into our classroom application. So we would love to think about what will you take from this webinar and use in your classroom. So thinking about the things that we just talked about and how to best support you as an educator and then hopefully your students. We do know that some of you are finishing up the school year and that you guys, some of you guys might even be finished. We're at the end of May. So thinking about our attributes. So on the left-hand side, we have those attributes of a meaningfully integrated lesson. So these are a lot of those common things. You can scroll through it, thinking about the practicality, those real-world applications. It's relatable to local communities. And then in the right-hand side, if you could name one strategy you will use to meaningfully integrate lessons. So thinking about what you guys talked about today, heard today, we were able to make observations about. Would love to hear from you and seeing what you guys are going to hopefully try and implement in your classroom. Lots of real-world connections, which is really great. Relatable to the local communities. That's a really fantastic one. So thinking about the communities that the students are coming from, so that it's not only real-world experience, but it's also something that helps to support them as functioning members of their community, which is really great. So thinking about giving them some room for failure, that's a really great opportunity to be able to make sure that those lessons are working well. They can come back and think about what they can do to make it a little bit better for themselves. The opportunity to collaborate in some creative work. Absolutely. So thinking about those options for all of those students to be able to add all of their personal experiences and share that opportunity, which is really great. It gets them to be able to collect real data that they can analyze themselves. Absolutely. So thinking about the data that all of those students were collecting and how best that worked for them to be able to support them and how they could use that to apply. Perfect. It looks like we are finishing up. So I'm going to go ahead and have Chantel close that poll for us. And believe it or not, we are getting to the end of our webinar together. We were here for almost an hour, and I want to make sure we have enough time for everybody to go ahead and have an opportunity for some questions if they have any that we haven't had an opportunity to talk about. But I do want to let you know that we do have EIE webinars, lots of really great topics, STEM and ELA integration, thinking about questioning strategies, material management. Please go to our website. The registration is free. We are regrouping for the summer and being able to come back at you guys with some really great stuff for later on this summer, and we're really excited about that stuff. So we want to be able to support everybody for that. I do want to let you know that we have our access, so feel free to go to EIE Online PD. And then think about that. We're also on Facebook, and we love to tweet. We love to see all of this stuff. So we want to be able to support you guys on anything that you guys have questions, or maybe share some of the activities that you guys have done. And we're going to go ahead and hand out a survey. It's really important that you guys have an opportunity to be able to fill out that survey. We use all of that information to be able to send back to us, and we use that to be able to help modify anything and be able to support everything. So that's going to come up either in front of or behind your screen. But we want to make sure that you have an opportunity to be able to fill it out. And we will be here until 5 o'clock if you have any other questions. We are going to have our webinar, this webinar and some of our other ones are all available for you guys to watch. So if you want to come back, that should be available in a few days, and you will be receiving an email as well. So supporting all of our opportunities to be able to see different webinars that are here and that are there for us to be able to reference. If you have any other information, feel free to go ahead and ask any other questions. Chantel and I will be here. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to have been part of this for you guys. So one of the questions about how often will the webinars be held? Throughout the school year, we've been trying to have them several times a month. Right now, we are regrouping and trying to support educators as they're getting ready to start a new classroom or a new school year up. And so if you want to come back and check back in a couple of weeks, we will have our new schedule up that will probably be starting come July or August, but we want to make sure you keep on checking back with us to come back and enjoy. I am so glad that you found this stuff interesting and meaningful. Thank you so much. I am so sorry, Susan, that you had some troubles connecting, but feel free. In a couple of days, our webinar will be up, and you can go ahead and watch that. So that you can see maybe any bits that you might have missed anything. So I'm just asking that you guys fill out that survey. That's really important for us. And I know that Chantel is answering some questions as we go through, which is really great. We're so glad that you guys enjoyed the webinar, and we see a few people who are familiar with EIE. I love it to see EIE is awesome. Yay, we think so too. I love that you guys are capable of using all of the resources. We love to hear stuff. If you guys are doing stuff in your classroom, feel free to send us something. We could add it to our blog, or it's really great to see any of that stuff. We get excited about seeing some of the really exciting things that are happening in the classroom. It's one thing to be able to talk about it. It's another thing to be able to see how successful, and we love seeing those kids have those aha moments. So absolutely. This is really great. I'm glad that everything seemed clear to you. We want to be able to make things clear. We only have an hour with you guys, so we want to be able to support all of you guys. I'm glad that you guys really enjoyed the info. So I'm just reminding you to go ahead and fill out that survey. We're so happy that you guys were able to join us today, and we're really glad that you guys had the opportunity to be able to support our learning that was happening and think about how everything was working out, which is really a wonderful opportunity. If you have no other questions or concerns and you have filled out your survey, you can go ahead and sign off. We appreciate you taking your time out of your very, very busy schedule to be able to support your learning and what we're doing here at EIE. We are really excited about everything that's happening and all of this positive feedback we're getting. You're so very welcome. I appreciate all of the thanks. We're really excited that you guys were all here. I see that Chantel is responding about certificates. So again, in a few days, you'll be receiving an email, and that will include your certificate for being here today. So just make sure that you, in case we get stuck in your spam or maybe get sent to an email like a school email that you might not check on a regular basis. So we want to be able to support all of you for that. It is very exciting to be in professional development with educators from around the world. It's a really great opportunity to be able to collaborate with your cohorts and fellow educators, which is really wonderful. Perfect. So just another reminder, if anybody else hasn't had an opportunity to fill out that survey, it's really important for us. And we appreciate all of it. Chantel and I Dorothy, you're asking about will we have any on-site seminars? So I'm assuming you mean on-site PD. If you're talking about PD here at the museum, yes, we do have professional development that happens here at